Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely, and this video is about how not to get first hole tournament jitters. Now, before I begin, if you aren't subscribed, please click the subscribe button down below. It's not just to be notified of new videos, it's also your way of telling YouTube that this is a good channel that they should recommend to people when they're searching for topics related to what I teach. And also, if you see a video you like, share it on your social media. That is the best way you can help get me new viewers. All right, so first hole jitters at tournaments is extremely common. A lot of players find that they don't so much get nervous or stressed when they're competing, except for the beginning of each round. There's excitement, there's anticipation. Maybe you've been visualizing your tournament in your head, but you step up to the first tee, you have first hole jitters, and it hurts you. It hurts you for a hole or two until you settle in. Well, you can't just throw away a hole or two. So this is going to be about how to have that not happen. There's a lot of bad approaches out there. And I can sum up all of them with just one story. It's one of my favorite stories in teaching, because I love talking about the psychology of disc golf. And there's one story that kind of encompasses all the approaches that I think are flawed. So what happened was the player walked up to me and they said, I have a problem with first hole jitters. I keep bogeying the first hole. And I said, all right, tell me what you do before the tournament starts. What do you do when you hear the 2-minute horn? 2 minutes till tee off. And they said, well, I got this book on sports psychology and here's what it said. Now, I'm gonna take a quick aside here, and I have a problem with a lot of sports psychology books. Now, if you're a sports psychologist and you're watching this video, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the other sports psychologists. But there's one flaw that I think a lot of them have, and that is they don't recognize that we're all different. Our brains, our ability to process information and stimuli are just so radically different from person to person. A lot of these books or philosophies or articles or tutorials or videos approach the subject as a one-size-fits-all. Anything related to sports psychology that you read or watch that says, here's how you do this thing, is crap. It's not crap for everybody, but it's crap to say that it's automatically going to work. So he has this book that told him this is the approach you need to take. This is what professional athletes do. So right off the bat, I knew this was going to be interesting. And his story goes basically like this. So as soon as I hear the 2-minute horn, the first thing I do is I walk off by myself away from the group and I close my eyes. And when I close my eyes, I visualize a line inside of my head from the left side of my head to the right side of my head. I visualize a line from the top of my head to the bottom and a line to the front to the back. And as soon as I visualize those lines, they're not touching each other inside my head. So at that point, I know I'm not centered. And I'm still yet to figure out what that means. But at this point, I know I'm not centered. So I focus and I start moving the lines around in my head and I can see them moving. And my goal is to get them to all converge at one point. And at some point, they do converge and it almost starts to glow inside my head. That's when I know that I'm centered. So now that I'm centered, I have to relax. So I open my eyes. I take 3 deep breaths in through my nose, out through my mouth. And I do that 3 times. And then I step up to hole 1 and I got first hole jitters and I always bogey the first hole. And I looked at him and I laughed. I wasn't laughing at him for asking me, but I was laughing at this approach. And I said, let me go ahead and paraphrase what this book just said to you. So you're getting nervous at tournaments, right? Tournaments are a big deal. You're excited about it. It's something maybe you don't do very often, but it's a really big deal. Basically what this book said was, you get nervous because tournaments are a big deal. How many different ways can we reinforce what a big deal this tournament is? So the first thing you need to do is you need to isolate from all your friends. It's such a big deal. You don't want to be around your buddies. Then once you've isolated from your friends, it's a tournament. It's so different than a normal round of disc golf that you play every other day that you need to do some mental gymnastics and mental trick to be able to do the thing that you did just fine yesterday, because it's somehow different. And then once you've done that, the book effectively said, now you're going to be anxious. You will feel anxiety. So I'm going to show you how to breathe. Yeah, I know you've been breathing your whole life, but you've been doing it wrong. So I'm going to show you how to breathe because this tournament is such a big deal. There are so many lessons on how not to get nervous or feel anxiety when competing in sports that basically tell you to make the event into something bigger than it is. And I can't imagine that's right for most people. Now I am not saying that this book is wrong. If any of these things that I just mentioned in the book work for you, don't change it. I mean, keep doing it. Clearly, there's people out there that have learned breathing exercises help them relax. Well, if that works for you, keep doing it. What I'm saying is there's not a one size fits all for everybody. And what I have found is that most players deal with nerves better not by changing things because of a unique and larger situation, but rather trying to replicate those situations where they're not nervous. I asked him, I said, do you get nervous before league night? He said, no. Do you do any of those exercises before league night? He says, of course not. And I said, do you do those exercises before you practice? He, no. Do you get nervous before practice? No. I said, well, then why are you trying to turn the tournament into a tournament? Why not try to turn the tournament into league night or practice? Again, for you, some players play better by making a tournament into a big deal and doing mental tricks. That works for them. Keep doing that. By the way, those players aren't watching this video because they don't get first hole jitters. They don't need to watch this video. But if you're watching it and this is something that affects you, I have found in most cases is that you want to downplay the situation you're in. So I even asked him, I said, what do you do before league night? He said, I text my kids, make sure they're doing their homework. I said, then text your kids before a tournament. I said, do you isolate from your friends at a tournament? He said, no, why would I? These are my buddies I like to see after work. All right, well then don't isolate yourself from them. Like, do what you do at league night. Come as close as you can to turning this into a league situation if the league situation is where you don't get nervous. So really the lesson in this with most psychology, well, there's two lessons. One is there's not a one size fits all. So there's not an answer to any sports psychology question that applies to everyone, but they all kind of fall under this umbrella of where are you most successful? And the places where you are most successful, that's what you want to replicate. If you're less successful at tournaments, change as little as possible from league to tournament. And you're going to find that's going to work out a lot better for you, for most of you. Thanks, everyone.